It's the Bill King Show, February 25, 2023, on this cold and blustery weekend. Welcome in, Jessica Bellamy.
Welcome in. You just caught me mid-sip of my tea, my chamomile rose tea.
You are now in place, but you went somewhere. You caught part of this business side of music at Ontario Creates?
Yes, Ontario Creates, they partnered with Conscious Economics for brands. Learn how to tie their creative, their marketing in with artists, and specifically musicians, and how they can create impactful and authentic advertising, leverage their brand and really reach the heart of their customers or their clients, and how well it's mutually beneficial, especially for, say, a local artist in Toronto. And, they've been putting out some music, get an opportunity to work with like Loblaws or some big corporation. All of a sudden, their exposure is elevated, and then that can take them places. There's a nice symbiosis in there.
Traditionally, an artist would never go for this.
Yeah, and traditionally, corporations wouldn't go for this.
No,
like hand over creative license to a musician or someone that's not on their traditional, marketing team. So it's interesting.
And also the fact that you have to be careful which artist. You have to be careful of the messaging. You're appealing to a broad audience. These things all come in play, but rock and roll has always been like outlaw stuff, right? So that's how.
Yeah.
I guess it takes a certain midfield kind of artist that plays the game, can work this out, and not offend, but yet sell product at the same time. They do this partnership.
Havea Mighty, she was on the panel, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So an amazing award-winning rapper, hip hop artist and creative. And she said that she only aligns herself with companies that allow her to stay true to her own identity too.
Okay.
And that's important. So she's not losing herself or feeling like, quote unquote, like selling out to herself or to her fans and things like that. So that's also important. And she's very careful with who she partners with.
Aligns herself. Yeah. Now, you also saw the Joe Seeley Africville concert the other night, also the Christian McBride at Meridian Hall. So your take on that. What was your take?
Oh, my God. Okay. So I think I even mentioned to you that Christian McBride, with his movement, his opus, the movement, like he's building his legacy. You have Joe Seeley, which is tying us to history, to Canadian history, and African Canadian history. And then you have Jackie Richardson, who lends her voice to the Africville stories, and that just brings everyone home. It was a beautiful, beautiful night. Well, my first time seeing Christian McBride and Joe Seeley. So this was especially a treat. I've met Jackie on a number of occasions. She's, a friend of the show, a friend of yours. So I've met her through the show. So it was great to see her on stage as well. Everyone enjoyed themselves.
Nice turnout. Nice turnout for that?
Very nice turnout. Yes. Oh, the stage performance was fantastic. And we can't forget to mention Toronto Mass Choir was also performing with Christian McBride. They lent their voices, and that was phenomenal to see as well. Now,
before we move on, when you were at Ontario Creates, you saw up on the screen there something special.
Oh, yeah, the Bill King Show.
Yeah, there we go. I just had to get that in there. Because you sent me a little voice thing. You sent me a voice thing. And I said, oh, man, how nice is that?
I know. We were like music industry, like execs or something fancy and nice. I was like, hey, y'all.
Anyway, rolling on. So, I talked to is Elizabeth Shepard's conversation. 3 things, the gospel according to Elizabeth Shepard. And you're talking to who?
Oh, I'm talking to Juno nominee for Contemporary R&B Album of the Year, Adria Kain, and also one of the recipients of the Sirius XM Black Canadian Music Awards. I have a wonderful conversation with her.
That's great. Jesse's talking about everything to do with music. And Gloria Martin's here. She has film. She has, I think it's Keith, Hampshire, and his daughter down in Florida. Little music from them. It's the Bill King Show on CIUT 89.5. You're in Montreal or outside of Montreal?
I'm an hour and a half outside of Montreal in the Laurentians.
Is that good?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's like ski country. I live at the end of an unpaved cul-de-sac, so I'm in the woods. I see more animals than humans, which suits me fine.
I was reading that in the lyrics from the album. You're in the woods.
Deep in the woods. Yeah.
It's a good place to write and create.
Yeah, and raise kids. And it was a great place to spend the pandemic. So
yeah. And how did you handle that?
It was fine, as fine can be. It was hard, because we had the curfew in Quebec, mm-hmm. and the regions were closed, so I couldn't even go into Montreal to see my folks or anything. And the curfew was 6 months in 2021, I think, and then we started 2022 with the curfew again. I mean, you know how it's been for artists. We were like the last sector to reopen and the first to close down, and it feels like things have really shifted in that time.
Yeah.
So just trying to find what is the new way forward, and not only did it shift because a lot of places closed, but it feels like since my last release, everything, all the traditional media have, not that they don't exist anymore, because here I am talking to you, but everything now is online, and I'm just what is this new landscape? And I feel so old, and I'm just okay, you got to adapt or die. So
I haven't figured that out either.
Well, I don't know if anyone, some people are really good with it, and I feel okay, I got to take a page from that book because that's just the way of the future. But it's a little daunting, honestly. I'm oh my God.
It's tribal now. Everybody has their tribe. It's not a big picture.
No, it's funny you use that word, because that's how it feels. It felt like after the pandemic, everybody kind of took sides, and I don't mean musically so much as that word tribalism is so apt, just people gravitating towards other people who think like them, and their echo chamber will not be challenged, and feeling I've seen groups of friends just disintegrate, and it's a little disconcerting, and that's partly what I addressed in the album, is just this okay guys, surely there's enough common threads between us that we can come together and appreciate each other. We all want the same things at the end of the day. It's a weird time.
As I was listening to this congressional hearing yesterday, and it was about it's before the Supreme Court, and it's dealing with technology, it's dealing with Google, YouTube, and all of this. Mm-hmm. And somebody was just saying that YouTube is the nightmare of their life. Somebody's got to do something about YouTube. Now, I don't have no problems with YouTube. You can talk about money and stuff, but I don't know what the person is looking at.
Yeah.
That what they're getting back from an algorithm or something in return is causing them so much grief, because I have nothing but great experiences with YouTube, because I don't go to places that I don't need be.
Yeah, that's right. I've actually thought about like what an experiment it would be to create an alternate identity and like g- deliberately go in like a bunch of things that are completely opposed to my
Yeah.
Values, and just see like, so what is life like? What is the algorithm feeding to this person? Where are they getting their information? Like, I'm just so curious
Me too.
because there used to be these relied media outlets, that everyone, like these legacy media outlets that everyone kind of agreed upon and turned to. And now it's like, no, everyone's getting their information from somewhere else. And I just want to know, like, what are
Yeah.
you hearing?
Yeah.
What's your reality,
Think also through the years that through Facebook and through the other social media outlets that I kind of travel, that those who were out of their mind, I sort of lost them, and they lost me too. So
Yeah.
I really don't get the crazies. The same way with Twitter. Since I'm not up on Twitter chasing down the lunatics, then I don't really get much in return from that. So I think that's where you go and where you want to be, you get that in return,
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I mean by that echo chamber.
Yeah.
It's just when it starts to be good friends, I feel like, okay, I don't want to. I always say I grew up in France, and I always appreciated about the French that you could argue passionately and still go for coffee, And I feel like it's not quite that way here or now, that it's sort of like, this is my camp, and I cannot even deign to talk to you because you don't agree with my camp. And I feel like, man, there's something wrong with that. Like, I think we should be able to still go for coffee.
I think it's something as simple as should you mask or should you not? And I think during that whole period that there was the great divide over how we dealt with COVID. And I think the great divide was there's people who took the side, I will never wear a mask. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in the treatments. Then the other side saying, I'm going to stay with the medicine. I'm going to stay with the science. And that was kind of like the separation right there to me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are the three things?
Yeah, it's three things remain: faith, hope, and love. But of the three, the greatest is love. And so that's sort of like my, in a nutshell, my guiding principle, my North Star, if you want, which ties into exactly what we're talking about, that I feel like I should, that more important than tribalism, more important than sharing views is love, is the ability to see a person's value regardless of how they differ in view. And I feel like for me, I've settled on that as the way that I want to move forward, especially now. And so, yeah, it's a theme that comes up a lot in the album. And it's, I've always been, I grew up in the church, and so I've always been spiritual. Hesitate to use the word religious because there's just a quagmire of connotations and associations, and it just gets in the way, I find. People hear that and they're like, no, okay, not for me. And I'm like, well, wait. I'm talking about ideas, not like stances, and so yeah, it's the album came out of a time that was pretty dark, and I felt like I needed to get back to certain basics, and I felt through the pandemic that I was observing, some of what we just talked about, all these divisions, and that now I needed to find my way through that, and settled on, I want to move forward from a stance of like acceptance and grace and openness and love, and really try and live that, and because that's how I would like that's how I'd like people to be with me when I'm making crazy assertions or, make what they feel to be terrible mistakes. And that's what I've experienced too in my own family when I went through some like dodgy periods. Nobody disowned me, they stuck by me and showed love and support. And I feel like that counts for a lot. So yeah, it's the title track uses those lyrics, which is actually from a Bible passage. The songs deal with those themes. And then musically, it was just, it's kind of ironic because just before the pandemic in February 2020, I had received a Canada Council grant to create a creation grant to create with a bassist named Jasper Hoibu, who plays, headed the group Phronesis out of Denmark and England, and also he now has a group called Planet B, and like a really great bass player and real like mensch of a person. And we hadn't worked together, but I felt like there was enough sort of musical kinship that it would be really great to explore that. And so he came and stayed with me in the woods here, and we sort of worked out this musical language over 10 days. And then the last day, a friend came, a recording engineer friend came and recorded basically a 10-hour day. And we got all this stuff, and it was so freeing. And completely counter to how I've always created, which is like lone wolf in a vacuum. And then I go and rehearse the stuff with my very, specific ideas. And then, of course, there's space within that for improvisation and people to insert their voices because it's always been jazz. But I had never collaborated like that. And so it was mind-blowing. And I actually left that time thinking like, I think I might want to do free jazz. Like, I think this is the way I want to go. And I didn't, obviously. But I told myself, like, henceforth, I'm going to collaborate with people because this is just so much more rewarding. And then the pandemic happened. Like, the world closed down 3 weeks later. And I was like, okay, I guess that's not happening. So instead, I wanted to sort of honor that approach of like, how do I collaborate? And was thinking like, just try to distill. So what is it about that process that got me so excited? And it's, I think the drawing inspiration from someone else's sound, what they're throwing at you. And so I thought, okay, well, we're surrounded by sound. The world is inhabited by sounds, and I have this like, almost like a twitch. Like if someone closes a door, I hear it as rhythmic, and I'll like replicate that sound back as if I'm like trying to sing the rhythm of the door closing. Or I feel like I'm just always hearing things in terms of music. And so I thought, okay, well, let's do that. And so I recorded bird songs. I recorded the sound of my typewriter because I have a typewriter fetish. The sound of people laughing, and the sound of a garbage can, like a metal garbage can being hit, and just all these things where I felt like there's music there. Those became the inspiration for the song, and just sort of trying to convey to the world also that I really hear music everywhere. I think it's there for everyone to hear if you just kind of open your ears or like listen differently. And so it's that's kind of sonically the starting point for the album.
And being out where you're at, you hear so much. Mm-hmm. I mean, just from nature and
and from silence.
Yeah. But I mean, from everything around you, that there's a different kind of communication, and you have to be sensitive to the world inside your doors. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure some way that affects your writing, if it affects the lyrics and your train of thought, just observing.
For sure. I mean, I think the fact that it's very still out here. I'm looking out my window right now, and there's no movement. It's just trees, and we're even sheltered. Like I am literally deep in the woods, so I don't even feel the wind. There's just that time to reflect, I think. I mean, I have 2 young kids, so there are moments to reflect, and then they come home and it's pure chaos. But I feel like nature has always provided a grounding force for me, or a grounding place. And I need silence to write. Like some people I think thrive on activity and movement, and I feel like I just kind of get overwhelmed and paralyzed. And so, yeah, you're right. It does work really well for me to be out.
You're out Friday night at the Jazz Room in Kitchener.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you have dates now. You have March 16th, 23rd, 24th. You're moving around in Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, Edmonton. Has this been a while in between? Is this the first time out like this, or what?
Well, I went on the road with Michael Occhipinti when we released our Esmo album. So we were like, it felt like one of the first bands out in 2021. And so I have sort of witnessed how things have changed. I'm curious to revisit that now that things have been open a little longer. It's the first tour of my music, my compositions, since 2019. So that's pretty exciting. I just love bringing my own music. This stuff I've been sitting on for 2 years.
Yeah. Then you had the support like of Now Magazine. You don't have that now. Going into a city, you don't have that kind of underground newspaper support.
No, but thank God for jazz societies, and they're still running. It's all volunteer, right? Like same with a lot of radio. Like it's a beautiful thing. I feel like the love of music is it's this symbiotic relationship between so many people who are just doing it because God damn it, music's great, you know?
It sure is. And it's kind of basic where it was when it began. It's all. It's just a part of us, and it's not about saying I need to make such and such dollars. I mean, you have to make dollars traveling on the road and what you do, but still, it doesn't stop you from making music.
No, that's it. And I've often thought, what should I quit? Like, should I move to something else? I don't know what I would do. And then my husband is always like, you'll keep making music regardless. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Like, I will just always be doing that because I love it, Yeah,
that's who we are. Hey, well, I thank you so much for this, Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
Of our own transformation, the end of prisons where we stop and take stock as years may go by.
Jessica Bellamy's in the house.
The Black Canadian Music Awards is made possible through a joint partnership with SiriusXM Canada and SOCAN Foundation. This award is designed to celebrate extraordinary Black creators that are Canadian. They saw a record number of submissions from talented artists spanning multiple genres for this much sought-after recognition and prize of $10,000 for each winner to assist them in their creative endeavors. Over the next few weeks, I will introduce you to one of the 5 recipients. Today, we are celebrating Adria Kain. Adria Kain is a Toronto-based artist known for celebrating raw and honest lived experiences through soulful melodies and thought-provoking lyricism. She came up through the Remix Project, along DVSN's Daniel Daly and Jesse Reyes. With an impressive vocal range and unique tone, Adria garnered acclaim from tastemakers, including Complex, Fader, and CBC. Her debut album, When Flowers Bloom, landed her a Polaris Prize nomination and a moving colors performance of her song, Only with Time, which blew away the likes of T.I., Lena Waithe, Rhapsody, and Joe Budden. Adria shares her joy as a winner of the Black Canadian Music Awards, what it means for her to express vulnerability in her music, and her excitement for being nominated for Contemporary R&B Album of the Year in the upcoming Junos. Let's see what's up.
Honestly, it's everything has just been a blessing. Like that's like the word that's been coming to mind as of late. And I think it just really allows for me to like have the access to do the things towards my potential that I can, like whether it be creating a new project or, like investing in something that can essentially like bring back more to the artist community. Like it's like the beginning stepping stone of being able to kind of like dive into that world a little bit more. So I'm very, very thankful. And also, it's amazing to kind of be like that source of inspiration to other artists that are also like working towards the same things as myself. So like, for them seeing someone like myself win an award like this, it kind of shows like anything is possible. So I'm always trying to, even through my music, the music that I make, I know a lot of people can relate to some of the stories and things that I'm saying. So, it's just, I'm giving, I guess like providing a space for them to feel through things without judgment, without feeling like they're on their own, so even to that capacity, I think everything that I do as an artist, there's always an intention to give back or to provide something in some way, shape, or form. I'm hoping to kind of do that at, I guess, a grander scale as like time goes on. Especially as an artist, a lot of us don't necessarily feel like we can kind of like speak our minds towards certain things. And just in general, like I know the topic over the last couple of years mainly has been surrounding like mental health. And a lot of us feel like we're going through things on our own until we get together and talk to each other about it. And then we realize like, we're literally going through the same things. Just we have this weird sense of like non-support, which I think is really important to try to like facilitate more, for me at least. So I've just been trying to like really like even just like go inward and like really learn the importance of that myself, so that I can be able to provide a space. You know, that saying, it's like, you know, how can you show up for somebody else if you can't show up for yourself? So that's been like just like really like a main focus, which was the premise of the whole entire album, was like personal growth and allowing others to know that you can also embark on this journey as well. And like, you know, sometimes it's not always gonna be like glitter and gold and easy, but it's definitely an important thing for us to like, you know, be taking on and doing for ourselves. Yeah, I try to just remind myself, so that I can continue to remind like the world and others as well, that like, you know, it's okay to like speak your mind and like be vulnerable, and like if you're feeling off, like, you know, it's okay to be human and things like that. So yeah, I try to just be the example of that. You know, it gets hard sometimes, I won't lie to you. Like, you know, sometimes I genuinely feel like I'm out here by myself doing that. But, you know, I have to remind myself, like, you know, I am an example of like why it's okay. For me, it's just, especially first thing when I wake up in the morning, like just a couple minutes ago, I just had to like really like recenter myself and focus on calm and making sure that like I'm in the right mental space to, you know, communicate with the outer world, essentially. Because, you know, when I wake up first thing in the morning, it's just me. There's nobody else around me, you know, and when I go out into the world, I'm dealing with different perspectives, and everything essentially is a distraction in some way, shape, or form. So how am I going to allow myself to react or be affected by these things? I try to like spend time sitting and thinking about that before I enter into like the world, I guess, outside of my home. That's probably like the most important thing for me. I do that pretty much before every performance. I again like recenter myself and just find a place of calm. I also listen to a lot of like really calming instrumental music, like whether it be like lo-fi jazz or sometimes lo-fi R&B, hip hop, or sometimes even just I have a meditation playlist going where it's just a bunch of meditation sounds that just kind of play throughout the day while I'm cleaning or doing whatever. So those are my usual like go-tos, I would say. The main thing that I'm really excited about is I have a show in May. It's on May 27th at Massey Hall, or the new TD Hall that they just opened. Really, really excited about that. I'm planning like a really big show. I'm hoping everything goes well with that. So that would be for Toronto, the one to come to. And then I've got a bunch of other shows coming up, like between here and the US over the next couple of months. So I'm trying to sort out with my management. So yeah, it's an exciting time. I'm going to be at the Junos as well. I was also nominated for that, which was, again, another blessing that came from my album. So I'll be there first week of March. That's going to be an exciting time, I think. For me, it's just listen to the songs. Just listen to like genuinely listen, take the time, and don't be afraid to like reach out and let me know how it made you feel. That's all the support I need, really. For like maybe the industry, you know, like listen to the song so we can get some streaming numbers, you know, repost, share with as many people as possible. You know, all the things. Follow me on social media. All those things that they would want me to say. But for me personally, it's always just, you know, just take the time to really like take in the music and let me know how you feel.
Last night when I fell under the moon, I dreamt of me and you. Woke up wondering the truth behind those big brown eyes. Oh, the trance you had me in, I can't begin to hide all the ways that I'm feeling. Melting to you. Skin into the daylight, and my mind is going crazy. begin to try to hide behind the way that I'm feeling. Ooh, melt into you.
You just heard Melt Into You by Adria Kain from her Juno-nominated album When Flowers Bloom. You can listen and share Adria's music by following her on Instagram at Adria Kain. That's ADRIAKAIN. Also, be sure to grab tickets for her performance on May 27th for a very special headlining show at TD Music Hall. Next week, I'll introduce you to Toronto's Queen of Vibes, Desiree D, and her much-anticipated EP, Self.
Of course, it's the Bill King Show, and in the house, Jesse King, or in his house.
Exactly. You know, there's a great divide of snow.
It came, didn't it?
It did, but it wasn't too bad. It's not that bad. You know, I think we got lucky. It could have been double this amount, but I'm okay with it. We've had a good winter so far.
We were threatened with 30 centimeters, right?
We were told this for at least a week.
I'm always suspect because I always see every time it comes our direction, it sort of divides, goes south and north, and we're somewhere in between where we get dusted a bit, right?
Yeah, we love that. You know, the lake effect is fantastic in most cases because, like you said, they're calling for this. They see it on the radar, and then just that last, you know, as it enters the city, kind of gets pushed somewhere else. You're like, all right, we're okay.
Yeah, we make it through it. But here we are at the weekend. You sort of just stay in. It's too cold. I don't know what's up with you.
Well, you know, I love beef patties. I've loved beef patties since I was a kid. And when I was going to high school, they had a shop across the street called A&A, and they would hand make these beef patties, and they were really full, and if you weren't careful, if you got them too fresh and took that bite, that beef would just shoot out onto your lip and burn it, and you'd be left with like a blister. But I decided today I was going to post a picture of a patty and cocoa break because I love it. And I was curious, there's a day for everything, and is there a beef patty day? And do you know what? What are the odds that it actually turns out today is Jamaican Beef Patty Day?
On this date?
It is today.
Really?
On this date. I've never thought of this before, but it happens to be today. So I posted a picture. I got to share that. So to all the people out there, there's some amazingly good shops here in Toronto for beef patties. I go to Jerry's Fast Food on St. Clair. That's the choice one for me. But everybody's going to have their local shop where they get the beef patty. You
know, the story is, Jess, that you went to Oakwood, you went to Winona. You have never been out of that neighborhood.
Well, that's not true. I lived
you were on Bathurst.
I actually lived. I was at a Parliament in Ontario. That
was short-lived.
In Ontario for a short time in a great warehouse. The warehouse wasn't zoned for living, so there was some issues with it. But nonetheless, and it was a little sketch there at nighttime. I will tell you. But congratulations to the beef patty. So last week we were talking about the A&M movie documentary.
Yeah, how's that coming along with you?
So I finished. It's a 2-part documentary. It's fascinating. 2 musicians that decided to start their own label and started bringing in like some fantastic artists because the artists were allowed to do what they wanted. And they had this run of, so I decided, I said, what are some of their classics that they had on their label? And so here's just a few of them. They kind of hit their peak run from 1976 to about 83. So first one is Peter Frampton, Frampton Comes Alive. That was just dominated for like 2 years straight. You could put anything else. Breakfast in America was Supertramp, massive hit. Then they already had Joe Cocker and stuff. The Police, they had all of the Police records, and they just went bananas. Of course, then they picked up Sting, Janet Jackson, Control, and then kind of on and on. But I mean, their legacy was just outstanding. And then they were bought out by Interscope in the early 90s. That management changed. They were bought, and they got pushed out. They had to leave, and then within a few years, the label collapsed. But they had probably a good 30-year run.
But think of this, Jess. It all started with what, the Lonely Bull? I think it was the Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass.
So they did.
Yeah.
So their very first one, this is when they were a different label, Carnival Records.
Right.
Herb had one side, and Jerry had the other side. So they both took a side of the 7-inch vinyl, and that was their first foray. They had to change it because there was already a Carnival Records that existed, and they became A&M. But that's how it started. And then it was a lot of Tijuana Brass. Jerry was great at the business side, Herb obviously the music side, and off they went. So if you can catch that anywhere, it's well worth a watch. It's 2 hours, so it's very quick and definitely interesting.
Is there an explanation how they diversified their catalog? How did that happen?
It was Jerry who went to see Monterey Pop Festival, realized that at that point they had done purely mostly Tijuana Brass and Bossa Nova. That was their thing. He realized that to survive, they had to get into the pop game. And when he went to Monterey, he saw the Who, Hendrix, all these guys, and that's when they decided to jump on board and try to start picking some people up. But they went first and went to look in the UK. So they opened up a UK division, and that's where they started picking up like Joe Cocker and some of these British bands, because that was what was hot at the time.
Pink was on Howard Stern a couple days ago.
Oh, how was that?
Fantastic. She's amazing, just period woman. But her singing is just one of the greatest voices ever in pop. And
she could sing, yeah.
The backstory, they tried to get her to do the Janis Joplin story. And and it never worked out. And then they tried other singers all the way down, and nobody has been able to do this. So she kind of said, this is a story that nobody can make. This is one of the films you can't make.
That's a tough one, and it's not so much her looks, it's the sound and the tone of her voice.
Yeah, and how is the story written? She said the scripts that would come would always have a happy ending. And she goes, this was not a happy ending. She died from an overdose, right?
How are you going to get a happy ending?
So they're going to try to run. Well, before she had the overdose, she probably had prune cake and, in a Schlitz malt liquor. And she just, something weird. But
delicious.
But her story, she said she had signed this contract at the beginning, right? When she was very young, 16, 17, with this all-girls group. So she had signed her life away. So when she got the first main record deal, she had to go in. They said, okay, it's just going to be you. We're going to toast the other two. I think it was called Choice or something, the girls singing group. And it will be you. And she didn't want to do that. She didn't want to hurt the feelings. And they just sort of gave her an ultimatum that will destroy your career. So they just sort of put her on the back burner and left her out there. And she said, I was starving. I had to work these jobs, all kinds of weird things just to stay alive. And then she said, I gave in. And then I had my first hit, and it rolled on and on. She says, but I sold 17 million records, and I was broke. She said, I had to get out of that record deal. And now she's sold, 130, 40 million records worldwide. And then she also talked, I think it's Linda Perry, the songwriter.
That was the original first producer and songwriter.
They had the first hits, and she said, I thought I had Linda Perry forever. And she said she blew up so quick that... And she was talking about the song. She said the songs that she wrote, the lyrics that she wrote were so personal. And she says, to get behind a lyric, it has to make you cry. The story has to make you cry. And she said everything she wrote made me cry. So when I'm in the studio and I'm working, I'm going, oh, man. And she says, I never wanted to lose her. And then I lost her because she wrote so many hits for everybody else, right? And she'd be looking at these hits and she goes, oh, man, that was mine, What's going on here?
Perry is she is still a big force doing this. She came out of the group Four Non Blondes. That's where she was originally. But since then, she's gone to work with Christina Aguilera, all manner of singers.
Well, that was that song, singers. Beautiful. Yeah. That put Christina Aguilera over, right?
It's such a good song, yeah.
And that was for her originally, too.
Okay.
And I forget what the story is, how it went down. She didn't do it, or she didn't feel comfortable with it, or, here's what it was. Linda Perry said, this song isn't for you.
Okay.
And they
she just
argued.
knew.
Yeah, they argued about that, but then she said that Christina Aguilera was just off the wall, unbelievable. So,
and she's another one that could just sing.
Yeah,
I mean,
just out and out
so
sing.
good.
What else? What else is going on, Jay?
I always like stats, so I figured I'd just put a couple together for you. So the top selling albums of all time. I mean, we all know that one of them's on there. So I'm just going to read the top 5. So the first one is with 24. This is number 5. 24 million. Zeppelin 4 with Stairway to Heaven, the classic. That it's so known that even Steve's Music probably still has the sign up that says you're not allowed to play this on the guitar ever. Back in Black by AC/DC, 25 million. Who knew? I did not. That Hotel California, the Eagles, 26 million.
Can I guess the greatest one? It's the greatest hits by Eagles, the best selling of all.
You nailed it. You got it. So that's not so bad. So they've got the number 3 position. Michael Jackson with Thrill is number 2 with 34 million. And then they've got the top one, 38 million. So between 2 albums, we've got 60 million copies.
The Eagles.
Pretty good.
And as long as they stay on tour, they keep selling.
And that's just 2 albums. And they've got a whole, back catalog. It's absolutely remarkable.
Looking at the streaming sales versus CDs and hard copies from last year.
Okay, what'd you find out? Yeah.
Okay. Streaming sales, 26 million. Hard copies, 68.
That sounds about right.
And that's just hard copy CDs. And then you put vinyl in at about 40-something million. Cassettes were like 400,000.
Yeah, they've become collectibles now. I mean, you got to be the right kind of group or artist to have that audience that's going to go, yeah, I really want to collect this. Last thing I'll talk about is I've been reading or listening to 50 Cent's book. One, he's got 2 of them. This is the most recent one. And I just saw all these reviews, and it kept popping up on my feed. So I said, okay, I'll give this a try. Why not? And he's a very astute, smart guy. And what was interesting, just for one point, is that, he realized early on that he has to make his own game, like marketing and promo, and he has to learn as he goes, work with good people. Took a lot of hits in the industry as it happens. But when it came time to where he got to a place of prominence where, he had a lot more opportunities, all the other kind of guys in hip hop were getting involved in like creating alcohol drinks, their own brand and different things like Puff Daddy with Ciroc, vodka. And he looked around and said, well, he doesn't drink. So he goes, that doesn't really relate to me. So I don't want to be behind this. He says, what does everybody drink, no matter where, at a festival, a club, or anything? Water. And he kept seeing this vitamin water that was selling for like $3 when everything else was selling for like 50 cents. And he said, I want to be in business with them. He put it in a video in there. The company contacts him and says, hey, we'd like to get you to, sponsor or represent us, and we'll pay you. And he says, no, don't pay me a thing. All I want you to do is give me a piece of the equity of the company.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they went for it, and he promoted it like crazy. And I think maybe 4 or 5 years later, Coca-Cola bought them out for like $2 billion. So this one moment, he made this opportunity happen. He didn't invest a dime. It was just some promo. And he walked away with, I think, probably about $40 or $50 million.
Astounding.
Yeah, that was just the thing. He kind of learned that there's great opportunities to be had, but you had to be tactical. And the other thing I thought was really funny, he said, I always have a crew with me when I'm on tour. The guys that are part of the hype or whatever they're involved with. But I tell every one of them, don't you even think about getting a big head. If you do, you're off the tour. You get the one guy who has never been out on tour and is on stage, and all of a sudden he's getting demanding, like, I need this.
Right.
I need this. I need the brown M&Ms. He goes, the next day I would hand this guy a train ticket, and I'll say, I'll see you later. But it was just that he knew he had to work hard and maintain these things. And what happened is, the other thing that I thought was fascinating is he realized his career in rap was going down. His relevancy there's new kids. He couldn't sustain it. So he got into TV. And he created a series called Power, and he went to the network stars, and they were the only people that would talk to him. And they said, well, we'll give you a shot, but we're only going to give you $17,000 an episode for everything. And he said, sure. He said, okay, I'm in. He did it. This thing became the #1 seller. And then I think after the first season, they gave him $150 million for more seasons and other productions that he could develop. So again, taking the shot, investing his own. Yeah, man. So I thought it was fascinating. In the end, I was like, I walked away a lot more respect and interest in who he is as a person, because he's not the guy that you see 50 Cent, and then there's the guy that's the real guy.
The business guy. Last one real quick, Jess. Seinfeld, comedians going for coffee and cars. Eddie Murphy.
Great.
Eddie Murphy and Jerry Seinfeld, one of the best I've ever seen.
All right.
I laughed and laughed. I think he shows up in like a just knocked out Porsche, right? The two of them in the car, they can't stop laughing at each other. and so Jerry asked him, he said, "What's the funniest bit you think you've ever did?" And he goes, "Ice cream." Remember Ice Cream, the story?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As the little kid waiting for the ice cream truck and crying.
I got my ice cream.
I need ice cream.
You don't forget that. Yeah.
Jesse, the best, buddy.
Yes, man. And that was actually I think that's from Raw.
It's from Raw, yeah.
It's either Delirious or Raw, but I think that's Raw. So if you haven't checked it out, they're so good.
Check it out. Jesse, great.
All right.
We'll catch up next week.
Sounds good.
All right. It's Gloria Martin on Entertainment. It's Gloria Martin on Entertainment. Gloria. Have you been to Key West at all?
I have not this trip, but I have been to Key West many years ago.
Yeah. How far are you from there?
Oh, quite far. You know, that little road that goes down to the end of the Keys is quite long, yes. And we're about halfway, I'd say, up the coast of Florida on the west side. Weather's been good, though, right? It's turned spectacular. It's really been really, really lovely. And the dolphins are jumping, and all is good. All is good. Now, what about the viewing? What are you watching? The viewing. Well, the most recent episode of 1924 was... 1923. Why do I always get the dates mixed up? No, I must have been very bad in history when I was growing up, you know? Yeah. So 1923, fabulous episode, and just a killer ending. Can't wait for the next episode. Don't stop. Exactly. I go crazy. We're sitting there going, wait a minute. I need more of this. It's great TV, you know? Yeah, it really is. And now, I'm a huge Trekkie. So the big news for me this week is the third and final season of Star Trek Picard. And the first two seasons were, they were timely and interesting, and they had explored good and bad aspects of artificial intelligence. But it kind of lacked the verve and feel of a real Star Trek series for many of us diehard Trekkies. So this season is a real nostalgic return to The Next Generation, and it reunites cast members Sir Patrick Stewart, Gates McFadden, Jonathan Frakes, and 7 of 9 Jerry Ryan from Star Trek Voyager as well. And it starts off with a bang. The first episode was really good. Star Trek's been going for 36 years in its many incarnations, and I've been there for it all, Bill. I've been there for it. I have even rewatched The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager 2, possibly 3 times. So, okay, I'm crazy. It gives me a thrill to see these guys again all together. And I get this little thrill, and I think, how many people around the world are going, oh, this is so good? and Sir Patrick Stewart is, of course, Captain Picard, and he's been making the talk show rounds as the show debuts again. And he told CBS Morning about why he thinks Trek has continued to intrigue and inspire fans of all ages for so many decades, and I think we have a clip of that. Let's play that right now, okay? I've been very blessed in my career with the roles that I played, but nothing has the importance like Jean-Luc Picard. And if you told me that I would be saying that when I first got the role, I would have laughed in your face. But as time went by, and I saw the impact that Star Trek could have on people and their lives, the diversity of the show, its belief in honesty, fair play, equality, all those elements which kind of get a little sketchy. This is the thing about Star Trek, the nature of it. You can't say it's over. Right. I mean, look at, there are 5 or 6 different emanations of Star Trek on the air now. The impact of the show has been extraordinary. I was talking with some people at
a engineering and scientific research place. Yeah. And they said, do you have any idea about the young people who are coming to us now from universities who have gone to college specifically to study engineering or science or some kind of, experimental work? And so many of them mention Star Trek as being behind their decision. Now, that's remarkable.
It is remarkable.
And particularly women. Young women are being drawn into engineering.
That's a good clip, Gloria.
It is. He's a great guy. I remember during COVID, he went online and he read all of Shakespeare's sonnets, which was just such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing to do. Now, lots of good music here in the sunny South as well. Our great Canadian singer, Keith Hampshire, is here. Of course, Keith was, part of the famous pirate radio station, Radio Caroline. And after coming to Canada, he had several top 10 hits, including Daytime, Nighttime, which was just a great song that I think reached number 50 or 51 on the Hot 100. Now, he's a perennial snowbird here in Florida, and we see him every year when we come down. And every month, he hosts these singing sessions, which are just a ball. He loves to sing. And this week, we got to go and hear Keith belt out some great tunes from Motown, the Beatles, Frankie Valli, just more. And here's a sample of his pipes that are still great, and he still sounds super.
Let's have a listen.
The sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountains should crumble to the sea. I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me.
We go a long ways back with Keith, don't we?
Yes, indeed. And he's such a great guy.
Now, Radio Caroline was owned by Alan Slate.
That's right. Lots of connections there.
Big connections. Well, I think that's probably how he made his way to Canada or found himself in broadcasting and found a place in this country.
Yeah. And that was such a great thing, Radio Caroline. Love it. Now, the surprise of the night, listening to Keith was great. But the surprise of the night was Keith's daughter, Laura Hampshire, who I worked with at 680 News, and she's been on the radio and 680 and a number of talk shows and news stations since then. And she told me years ago, she was told by a casting agent that she had a terrible singing voice and that she should never sing. And that just destroyed her confidence. She didn't sing. But recently, Keith has been urging her to try again, get up to the microphone and give it a try. And this week, she belted out a song. She gave Adele a run for her money. Let's have a listen to the clip.
Okay, right here on The Bill King Show.
Never mind, I'll find someone like you. I wish nothing but the best for you. Don't forget me, I beg. I remember you say sometimes it lasts in low, but sometimes it hurts instead.
That's a tough song to handle.
It is. And, she's got a great voice, so I hope she sings more. And the motto of the story is, don't ever let anyone tell you what you can or cannot do.
I agree with you. Can I ask
Absolutely.
Now, can I ask you a question? Did you talk about the mayor of Kingstown before?
The mayor of Kingstown.
With Jeremy Renner?
Yes.
Yeah, I finally got into that. I think I'm 3 or 4 in now. That's a pretty nasty one there.
Oh, yeah. No let up. Like there's no, there's no little reprieve. No reprieve at all.
Now, it's what, 7 prisons, lockdown prisons within a 20-mile radius, right?
In Michigan, yes.
In Michigan.
Yep.
And so Jeremy Renner, who's the star of this, he kind of has this weird peripheral gig where he sort of wheels and deals with all the underlings, whether in the police department, the politicals, or the prison official, or the prisoners.
That's right. Yeah, he's got to run the departments that are handling all the prisons, but then he's also got to deal with, it's not black and white.
No,
when you're dealing with these incredible situations, and he's trying to do the best he can. And of course, when you're dealing with gangs and police brutality, things go wrong all the time.
Kyle Chandler is a big star. How do they off him in the first series? This guy's got to be in this a lot longer than just, 20 minutes or so.
That was my biggest disappointment.
I
had to think that maybe they cast him in the Jeremy Renner role and he didn't get it, and they just put him in there to make him not so unhappy.
Right, because we saw him in Bloodlines and watched all the series which he was fantastic in.
He's so good. I was really sad to see him go so soon. That's about it for this week, Bill.
Okay. There's some, I just saw the news that came in. R. Kelly got another 20 years.
Oh, good.
So that's 50 now. So he's going nowhere.
You know what? I've been barking about him for, since his first offense. When the radio stations I was working for pulled his songs and then a week later put them back. And I was like, come on. I'm sorry. This guy is bad news.
And he's going nowhere.
Nah. Yeah.
Gloria, it's the best. You have a great week, and we'll catch up next week.
Okay, Bill. Keep the sunny side up.
That is a packed show there, Jessica.
It's a packed show. And we're gonna have another packed show next Saturday too.
Yeah, we always got a lot on the go. So I guess the great thing about it is we talk to so many people, arts and culture, music in our community, in our country. And the fact that you're able to get out is terrific. The fact that Jesse has insights into everything that's going on musically because he pays attention. Gloria is right on the film and TV and all the things that have to do with entertainment. So it's the Bill King Show, CIUT 89.5, saying goodbye. Jessica?
Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the weekend.
We got it. Thank you then. A big thank you for all who tuned in to The Bill King Show. We'll catch you on the other side.
First one up is waiting by the door. I'm too broken, I'm too poor. Next in line takes one step in, sees the sun and leaves again. Been so long in misery, feel at home in tragedy. Just behind another backs away. Now we're good enough, so they say. So they say. Don't get shy, this is your home. Have a seat, cause the table is long. The place has been set since you were born. I've known you from the start. In my heart, in my heart. Each inviting